Anyways, my name is George Lesher, President of Cogitate. Thank you for attending our product release webinar for MyWork. It's we're pretty excited about it. This has been the culmination of several years worth of work for us, and we hope that you'll be just as excited about it as we are. The date. So as promised, MyWork will be released on October 1st of 2022. Availability is as soon as you decide you want to, embark on getting it installed and everything is okay. We'll cover some of that during today's webinar, but just so you know, we believe it is finished. Or I should say, the first version is finished. It's been tested. Brian at Chippewa County Road Commission, Brian Decker, that is, has been testing it there with their people, and so far so good. They haven't had any issues that have been show-stopping, so we believe we've got a relatively sound piece of software for you to utilize. So what does it mean for the existing time card system? A lot of people say, well, you're putting a new one out there. What's going to happen to the Pro Fund Accounting Works time card? Just to start with, we decided kind of at the last, little bit here to make both the MyWork, which is the new one, and PFA Works time card, which is the existing one, to run simultaneously. So that means you can still have some people on the old while you're getting them kind of, learn about the new. All the old stuff still runs, with it together. Nothing collides so far that we can tell. So everything should be pretty smooth between MyWorks and PFA Works time card. Each of them have their own import. Each of them have their own views and approvals and things like that. So you won't be able to approve a time card on the new MyWork that was created on the PFA Works time card. We also have at the end a conversion utility that will move all imported time cards from PFA Works to show them into MyWork when you're done. And I will run that here today and show that. The last day of official support then for PFA time card, PFA Works time card will be September 30th, 2023, which is 1 year from October 1st. So you have a year to try to, migrate off of the MyWorks time card, or I'm sorry, to migrate off of the PFA Works time card, and begin using the MyWorks time card. In pursuant of that, we're going to, all billing that we've done for people for the PFA Works time card will stop on October 1st of 2022. So if you get a bill and it's a little bit less, that means that you were being billed for the support of PFA Works time card. And we've stopped doing that. So your bills will go down a little bit for the current year. The hardware and software requirements for MyWork are pretty simple. First, for MyWork, it's a web-based, so anything that will run a website. So pretty much, a phone, a tablet, laptop, of course, PC, of course, but if you have a watch that has internet access, it might be a little hard to move around on it, but it would certainly still run it as long as it has a modern browser. What I mean by a modern browser is, usually means that it's a, later version of Mozilla or Firefox, later version of the Safari, later version of Google Chrome, and a later version of Microsoft Edge. So, one of those primary ones, it could be like I've got a Samsung web browser on my phone that works just fine. The main thing is it has to provide certain services for a website to utilize. The other thing that's on there is it needs to have location services. Now, a lot of places don't have, or devices may not have a GPS device. And so the location services work off of a variety of different algorithms to try to get a reasonable location for the device. But location services do need to be turned on. so that we can provide, better quality of knowing where things were, keyed in and things like that. And when we go to add certain features, we will require it. The next part is your office is going to need to have a static public IP address and one, available port to be able to put through there. Now, this is kind of a technical thing. If you don't know, if you don't have it, you would want to contact your IT department, or your, and your IT department can say, yeah, you're going to need to get, a static IP from the whoever is your server, whoever is your internet service provider. Once you have that, then make sure that you can have one, you can actually receive a connection on a given port. Then, you would need to have that port routed probably at the router for the internet to the actual server machine that's listening for that port, for, time for the MyWorks to be able to connect in from our website into your back end to be able to write time cards and, do the things that we're doing. And then what I say is decent internet speed at the office. If you're on a dial-up modem, it probably isn't going to work so great. But most places, you usually have something, any of the cable company connections would be fine. But if you are on like a DSL, it might be a little bit tough to make the DSL work. Let's, I'm of the opinion, let's just try it and see where we end up with it. Let's not, say it's too slow or not yet, because it just depends on how much activity you have on the line at the single time. There's not a lot of traffic that has to go through the internet for the MyWork. We've really made sure that the amount of data that's being moved around the system is really, really small. All right, so how do I get MyWork installed? It's a pretty straightforward process. You contact Cogitate, which is probably me or Brett, and we'll set an installation date that we can all agree on. Part of the installation is going to require us to access your server. So we're going to need to have a login on the actual server because we have to install the MyWork software onto the server so that we can obviously get access to it and make sure that the port is forwarded and all those things are all configured correctly, to make sure that, the whole system will work, as we are showing it today. It's not too hard. The total time to install it is only about a half an hour. It's not like it's a huge, big thing to install. It's pretty straight, it's pretty small, and it just kind of slips right in. Configuring it takes about 20 minutes. So it takes about 5 minutes to install, 20 minutes to get it configured right, and then we're off to the races, ready to go, for you to start using it on the web and connecting in. The biggest thing will be making sure the router is set up and making sure the internet has the activity and there's the firewall isn't blocking or anything like that. Now, many people have said, what about training? I've got all my guys used to the old one. We need to, get the guys onto the new one. They don't think that it's going to be able to go. So what we've done for training is right now there's 3 videos available from the help link in MyWork. So if you run the current beta version of it that's out there, you can see it. The links are also publicly available on our YouTube channel to view. There's a playlist for them. So again, the 3 videos will be very, very helpful. Brian can attest to watching them over and over again to glean a little piece of information that you missed the first 2 or 3 times. So they're packed full of information on how to run MyWorks, but running MyWorks is not, it's not like it's a real huge, difficult system to work with. It's actually pretty straightforward. We have tried to make all of the screens run incredibly easy. But, that being said, Cogitate will provide at your request a webinar like today a remote meeting with your employees if you want to set that up, so you can get a big, big monitor, a big screen to show it. And we'll be glad to go over and how to run MyWork, how to configure your system on MyWork, things like that with your employees if you desire. We still believe that it's better for you to run that. It's better for you to teach your employees how to do it. But if training isn't your gig, we'll be glad to set something up and be able to walk through a training session with your employees from with a remote link. Of course, Cogitate's always available for any requests from from the staff that you have for guidance on payroll and MyWork configuration. Things that should be set up in a specific way that makes things work a lot smoother when they are. So we're certainly here for that. Again, anytime you need to talk to us, we'll be glad to help you get through setting it up and making the MyWork configuration pretty straightforward and easy. So there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of configuration that needs to go into it, and learning how to do that correctly. Like everything, the first time you do it, something new, it's always a little bit wrong, and then you got to redo it, and then you got to redo it. So finally, if you get to the place where you think, oh yes, this is how it should be done, to help avoid a lot of those redos, we'll be glad to work with you on your specific settings and your specific needs at the road commissions or the townships, and be helpful to get that configured in a way that will make things smooth and easy to use. All right, so what is all this fuss about? What are the main features of the current MyWorks that we're going to be releasing October 1st? First, all data is active. So the difference here with the previous time card system is that we had to download data and refresh data and keep the local active by doing that. MyWorks doesn't require that. MyWork will go right into your data. Will go right into the back end, into the database, and be able to directly access the data to save the time cards there. So there's no upload, there's no download. Another good example would be as if you go in and you change a pay type, and you want to change the name of a pay type, or you want to change the value on a pay type. As soon as you hit the save button in ProFund Accounting on that pay type, now that pay type is active for everybody that's on the PFA or that's on the MyWork. They will see it immediately. So all data, like I said, is active on there. So that's one feature. A new feature that's not available in the current one is being able to enter a dollar amount. So when you have salaried employees that need to go in and put in, their salary for the 2-week period or for week period, they can certainly now key in and enter straight dollar amounts instead of just hours. So in case you have employees that are getting gypped out of 13 cents at the end of the year because they had to split it up on some kind of hourly basis, now they can certainly enter a dollar amount. The other thing that's important about dollar amounts is if you have reimbursements or others, activity that requires, that's not really based on a rate, but is based on a flat dollar amount. So you can put that in and create that for a time card entry for that enters a straight dollar amount like that. We have a clock in, clock out feature. The thing that's different about this one that is enhancement is it keeps track of a lot of information about where and when the clock in and clock out was done. This is in anticipation of a feature we want to add, but by being able to keep track of certain things, it's going to be a lot more difficult for people to scam the clock in, clock out. Of course, we have the time card management. I'm kind of briefing over this. This is the whole entering a time card, but they can delete a time card, their own time card, and they can copy a time card. They cannot, then they can edit an existing time card. So The ability to be able to copy is important because a lot of places they'll put in the first time card and have 3 or 4 pieces of equipment that are on that may have been part of a group or not part of a group, but now especially during the winter, they're the drivers are going from road to road to road for 2-3 hours each road. So they need to. It's the same piece of equipment that just needs to be copied onto 4 or 5 entries. So the copy is nice because you can click on the copy button on an entry and it'll make a complete duplicate of that entry for the employee to be able to change it. So it is nice there for that. Delete is the oops, I made a mistake and I need to, this time card is bad, so I don't want to have that sitting out there. And then of course entering a time card is simply going in and starting up a new time card to enter for a day. The other thing about the time card management to note is we try very hard to remove data that doesn't really need to be there. A good for instance is once a time card has been imported, the employee won't see that in their what we call managed lists. So when they go into their system, they have a dashboard that shows all the time cards that haven't been imported yet. And they can go back and look at all of those, especially if they've been rejected. So we'll show that in a little bit, but it's helpful that we try to keep that management away. Same thing with the supervisors when they're trying to approve. Once a time card has been imported, they won't see the time card in any of their approval screens, because there's nothing more for them to do with that. They can't reject something that's been imported. So again, the time card management portion is pretty important for that. We added a view current payroll bank balances that does a lot of activity to try to get a very accurate view currently of the payroll bank for an employee. The things that it does is it looks, first of all, it looks for balances, that are in the future. There's no real date times that they put on. It will be the current snapshot as of their bank balances now. They'll see the line items in there. There's a spot where we show a pending, so that if they key in, yesterday, if they keyed in 2 hours of sick time or vacation time, when they show their current bank balances, those 2 hours will show up as pending, so that they'll see still what the total balance will be once those 2 hours have been approved and imported. So it's very helpful for employees then to be able to see, oh yeah, last week I put in something and they forgot. So they think they have, 12 hours of vacation time left or comp time left, when indeed they do not. Also, part of the current bank balances that we did is we did a big task on making sure that comp time is correctly reflected in the bank itself. So for instance, if they bank 1 hour of overtime, that's really 1.5 hours of bank time. And we show the 1.5 hours of bank time in the bank balances. Bank minimums are enforced. So if they go in, they say, hey, I've got 4 hours of vacation time, but yet they really only have 3 hours left in their bank, the time card will not allow them to save that. So it will do that. But if there is a bank that happens to have a situation where you do need to let them go negative, we've made a checkbox in the payroll bank setup in ProFund Accounting to allow you to say, we're going to allow this bank to go negative. Otherwise, all bank negatives or minimums are enforced, which usually for most of them just means that they don't go below 0. Comp time. We added a comp time maximum and minimum check on the time card, so that the system will allow them to keep comping hours until their maximum would be reached. And we bring up a nice message that says, your maximum number of comp hours will be reached. That's the maximum is set in each individual's pay bank type. I'll show you where we have that. So that way, the MyWorks will go ahead and, stop them from keying in and going above their maximum as well as the minimum, if they go below 0 in comp time. Supervisor approval, we've done a lot for the supervisor approval screen. We made it a very simple screen with as few keystrokes as possible for a phone to approve multiple time cards in a day. So it's a lot easier to go through. We automate the process of going through all the time cards so that the person doing approval doesn't have to, click on this time card, then approve it, then click on this one and approve it. Simply they'll be in there, and I'll be showing you a big demo at the end of this, but I just want to get through all of our features beforehand, so we don't have to if you have to go for whatever needs, you don't have to stay around for the whole demo. We also updated how permissions are set inside of the MyWorks. It's a much more efficient for our database system, which again allows things to run faster overall because we're not moving so much permission data around. So it's pretty easy to set. You can set permissions based on the table type. So for instance, we can have our mechanic have access to every single part, as well as if we add a new part, he'll immediately have access to it. Same thing with equipment. You can say he has access to all equipment, and if we add a new piece of equipment, he'll still have access to the new pieces of equipment, right as we add them. So it's very nice in that regard. But then we also have we just want to give him permission to 1 or 2 things, as well as we broke down adding in setting permissions based on inventory by inventory type and category. So you can take a category and say, look, I don't, for like road materials, I don't want him to have any road materials, but he needs to have all the parts. So again, when we go through that demo part of that, you'll see, it's kind of you kind of have to decide which is easier for the permissions, but it's definitely enhanced and will allow things to go a lot faster for many, many people. We added a template management update. So for the time card templates, that's the only thing that's shared right now between the two, between the older one and the new one, because a lot of people have invested a lot of time in setting it up. But we have also had requests to say, hey, I didn't set it up that great, so I really want to abandon what I have and kind of start over. And with the works, you can do that. Or sorry, with MyWork, you can do that with the template management. MyWork will look to see if you have an active or inactive status on any of the templates, and MyWork will ignore anything that is inactive. So you can go through the template, and I'll show some of that. Today you can go through the template and see any of the inactive values won't show up in MyWork. The difficulty is, of course, in the previous one, all of the new things, all of the templates show up in the current PFA Works time card app, which is the existing one. So we got to be kind of careful about, mixing the two together, but there's a way to do it. And, if you're going to be doing that, we can certainly help guide you through that. We also enhanced the website. MyWork website, where it's hosted, is now fully managed by a professional team, which is not me, not Cogitate. We've basically bought a service. So what that means is the website has redundant backup by redundant backup by redundant backup. It has the ability to be, if it goes down in the data center in Michigan, it will come up in a data center in, they have one in Chicago, they have one in, if we had to, we would, come up in a data center in Dubai, India, or wherever Dubai is. I don't know, that they just said they have the site in Dubai. So, and all of that happens within, 17 or 20 minutes of the site being wiped out locally. Then a copy of it is already available at the other place and it will come up. So as well as there is, layer upon layer of security software and firewall software that's already positioned on top of the website so that only the data that's supposed to get through will get through to MyWork. So it's, it isn't a easily hacked or easily broken system at this point, but it's only because, it's managed by a team that's what they do. I mean, this is their job. That's what they provide for it. So another feature that we did. Now, we did all that work for the October 1st release, but then there's a lot of pieces we had to we had a lot of places that said, could you do this? Could you do that? So we've kept a lot of those requests, and we plan on doing these future enhancements, in a near future, which July, by the end of July next year, most of these will be in here. But we needed to get something out now to help get people going on the new time card, and then once that happens, we can migrate and do more. The first thing is geofencing. You can say, what the heck is geofencing? And geofencing is the ability to have, if you have a cell phone or your tablet, you walk around with it, you can specify a rectangle where inside the rectangle you can save time cards, outside the rectangle you cannot. And the way geofencing works is you get a map and you start putting rectangles on the map where you want to allow your employees to access the ability to save a time card or to clock in, clock out. We're not going to split those two the two activities. We won't split. So if they need to clock in, clock out, and you're going to control that, and you say this is where they can do that, there'll also be the same for this is where they can save a time card or edit a time card, as well as approve time cards. We're not going to allow approval outside of the geofencing. But some of the other enhancements, we are going to allow them to log in anywhere they want to be able to see. So, and you'll get the idea. But geofencing is designed around what kind of control you want to have on your employees being able to enter time card in a specific area or value. And it's not just one rectangle. You can have we're anticipating about 50 rectangles, allowing you to put 50 different rectangles on your map. And again, you just one corner, and then you draw out how big you want it. So there's a lot of flexibility there for geofencing. But again, we want to add that, and it should be pretty easy to do, and should be coming. We're hoping to have that in by the end of November. So that's definitely going to happen. We want to get that in because it's important to have to be able to control some of where the time cards are doing if you're going to allow the employees to do it on mobile phones. We want to add ability for your employees to view their pay stubs for the last 7 years. And we just did 7 years because that's the federal guidelines for keeping this information. So, as months go on from previous months, it'll just drop off. They'll only see last 7 years worth of pay stubs. Depending on the device they look at it, they'll be able to download and print those pay stubs. Certain devices don't have print, certain devices don't have download. But if it does have those, then the ability to see the pay stub, they'll be able to download and print a pay stub. Same thing, the last 7 years of W-2s. Again, they'll be able to download, print those W-2s, and again, depending on what device they're on, whether it has the ability to print, whether it has the ability to download. We can't make it be able to download to a device that doesn't have the ability to download, or like we can't make it print from a device that doesn't have the ability to print. But again, being that, they can, if they can't get it on their phone, they can go to a PC, log into the MyWorks website and be able to print and download from a PC. So again, like for instance, like viewing the pay stubs in the last 7 years of W-2s, those won't be geofenced. They should be able to do that at any time. So if they're sitting in the bank trying to get a loan, or at the car dealership trying to buy a car, and the guy says, I need your last 2 pay stubs or your last 3 pay, they can just download it right there and hand them the last 3 pay stubs. We want to add a place for you to put in employee messages. This is a one-way ticket so that you can do things like saying, hey, you need to contact us at the office and get a doctor's approval for something, or whatever the message may be. You can a way for you to put a specific message for the employee note for them to show up when they log in on their dashboard. We want to also to be able to send it to a group of employees, so you can highlight 10 or 12 employees and say, I want to send this same message to these 12 employees, and then when any one of those 12 sign into their dashboard, when they sign into MyWork, the message will show up, and then they got to click a button to say they've seen it. So there's we have a record of them reading that note. They can't just say, I never saw it, kind of a deal. So, but it's a one-way. I'm not going to allow a place for employee messages to send a message to the payroll clerk, because we can talk about it when we get to be doing that. We'll probably send out a thing to see, how far do we want it to go. But this is just something that we were asked to do a while back ago, and we thought we should be able to do it with just being it one way. We have payroll events now, so we thought it'd be nice if the payroll events would show up on the dashboard for the employee. So when he signs in, he would see payroll events of things that are coming up and that he would need to know about. So if you haven't used our payroll events, this is a place that they would also be used. Then a bigger project was the W-4s. We'd like to be able to have the employee enter a new W-4, modify his current W-4, view it, print it, download it. All of those things should be doable. The thing about W-4s, though, the data wasn't going to go directly in. We wanted to make sure that on that project we had a spot where the W-4 that was entered had to be approved by your payroll clerk or who's ever monitoring those W-4s. So that way, if the guy messes up something, there is at least another pair of eyes on it before it goes in as an official W-4 in our system. Also, another thing to add, probably at the same time, will be personal information that's not on a W-4, things like email addresses, phone, emergency contact. There's just a lot of information we have in the HR, in the personnel files. So all of that, all the things that are kind of outside the range of what's on a W-4, we would want to have a way to enter a lot of that, and that would be direct. I mean, these are the things, that shouldn't really, if he wants to put a bogus email address in, he puts a bogus email, they put a bogus email address in, things like that. So this kind of information should be available for your employees to, if not at least see, be able to, if not change, be able to at least see that and be able to do it. So again, we'll talk about that as we get close to adding that feature in, about how far we want to take it. We've been asked to look at two-factor authentication logins. If you've been on many of the current, updated websites, you'll sign in, you'll put your password in, and then you'll get a text message or a email that has a magic code in it. And once you key that code in, then you are fully logged in and you can use the system. So we're looking at adding that to the thing for additional security. That, of course, will be turned on and turned off per. We don't know if it'll be per employee, but most likely just per location. So if you say it depends. It's just there's a lot that goes into it. We will probably have to go through and ask what it is we're looking to add for that. But we will be looking to do something with two-factor login. With that, we also been asked to look in to be able to, once you're logged into Facebook, Google, Twitter, LinkedIn, all those, Microsoft, there's a variety of sites like that that say, if you logged in with Microsoft, then you can click on the, place, and it will automatically log you into, MyWorks. So if you want, we're going to be looking into being able to do that. There's other places where if you go to MyWork, you can click on, or you go to the website, you can click on log into this website with my Facebook. Either which way you want to go with it, we're going to be examining how to, interface with those things and put that into the MyWork so that your employees can, handle the different passwords and things like that with it. All right, how much is all of this great technology going to cost? First thing to remind ourselves is that we're removing the support fees right now for all PFA Works time card. So your support for the current year will be reduced if you were paying support fees for the time card. We're putting no limit to the number of employees. So it's not like, you're paying more if you have more employees. There's no limit to the number of employees supported by having the MyWorks doing your time cards, as well as there's no limit to the number of time cards. So it's simply just, we're trying to make it a simple one time, or once a month recurring fee. So that fee is $505 a month. So I'm going to let that sink in a little bit, because I want to make sure you understand it's per month. We have, that the data center for us cost quite a bit per month to keep it going. All right, so Brian?
Yes.
I've had Brian with us. He's been using it. Is there anything that I didn't cover that I should have that you see I missed?
No, not at this point. One question I did have, the notes for the non-W4 info that you discussed on the last slide.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a message sent to the PR clerk that that information has changed? So she's aware, or?
It's all doable. We just have to look at how we would want to manage something like that. Do we want to generate an email, which I don't like to do?
No, I was thinking maybe even just a pop-up message when you go into payroll the first time. Yeah, that was all I had.
All right, thank you. Time card templates. And what we did here is, again, we modified the colors so they're not bleeding our screens anymore. This shows that we have an active, so we have like a status. So if I go to administration and I change the status to inactive, it will change its color here while it's visible, but then it puts it over here into the, gotta save it. It puts it into the retired spot. So if I come back here and I go ahead and I make this active again, this time I'll commit the change. Then I go back to my active list. We will see him once again back there. I did administration. We'll see him back again here. So you can modify the status to move things, and you can move, high level things like the whole, if you do like all the Drummond Island projects, you can move all of them by simply just moving Drummond Island and making that inactive. It will do all the children. So it's kind of nice that way. The colors are a little bit easier, like I said, on the thing. The thing you can do about, we have the commit changes button we added a little bit ago so that it's a little easier to do things on here. But just beware that the active and inactive status is only honored by the MyWork time card system, not by the older one, the PFA Works time cards. Now we still have to go through here, and we still have permissions to work with. So if we go into MyWorks permissions, it looks way different than the other one. So when you click on an employee, you get what it's called the table level permissions. So If I'm going to allow every piece of inventory to be used by Henry, I can just say permit all, that I don't have to specify each individual pieces of inventory for Henry to use. Same thing for equipment, same thing for payroll types, and same thing for templates. So Henry can see all the templates, all the equipment, and all the inventory. But if I want, in this case, I have all the pay types set to permit none. So you kind of get how you want, different places to be. And then you can make exceptions. So let's go to like payroll types. I'm showing that he has permission to no payroll types because I only want him when I come into payroll types and I click on modify and I drop down payroll types. My exceptions to the fact that he doesn't have permission to anything is that he does have permission to back pay, holiday, overtime, personal, regular, sick, vacation, safety meetings, guard duty, and reimbursement. And comp time used. So these are the ones he does. Now, it may have been easier to give him access to all and then, check the ones that he should be accepted, check the ones that should be an exception to. We can do that. Is kind of a, the thing about it that I say is if you're adding a new payroll type and you have the permit all, everybody gets access that has that to a new payroll type. So you want to be careful in thinking about permissions to when you're adding a new one, do you want everybody to have access to it? So again, we can come in here and we'll see that, and we'll play the game. I'm going to change back pay in a minute on the permissions, and we will magically see that go away on MyWorks without, again, showing that it's, everything is active between Pro Fund Accounting and MyWork, for the data, because I showed we said we had active data between the two. So you get kind of the idea. The other thing we can do in permissions that we had before was, let me go ahead and save that, is we could, click on an employee, and if you get one employee kind of set up how you want a lot of employees, and you can just copy their permissions, and I can right click on, Melissa and say paste it, and I can do, paste, and I can do paste, and you can just keep going down and paste that same set of permissions onto everybody. Pretty easy to do. And, so that makes it a lot easier to set up. You don't have to go into, each individual person then and do all of those exceptions and things like that, because basically you're going to have a beginning set that just about everybody has, and then you'll have different exceptions. Or for instance, mechanics probably need almost all the inventory and equipment, but a person who is doing payroll, or I'm sorry, a person in the office probably doesn't need the equipment, doesn't need the inventory, things like that. And as well as the payroll types may differ between salaried people and non-salaried people. So you kind of get a little feel for how this is set up. We also have a view permissions. And so if I highlight Teresa Stewart and I say view permissions, so I can now see this is all the payroll types that she has. And I can go to the templates. These are all the templates she has access to. We can go to inventory, and this is all, we show how it's kind of broken down in different ways. So we can go to all the gravel. So she has access to all this inventory, and same thing with equipment. She has access to all this equipment. So as you're playing around with the exceptions, there's the view permissions. So to get out of view permissions, you hit cancel. To change the exceptions, you click modify. So we also have, there's a whole video on this already we made that you can watch. But I just wanted to make sure, you understood we made these changes. So the time card templates and the MyWork permissions are kind of the key to getting started with being able to use the MyWorks. So let's go in and show off we're going to go to the beta site because it's got some changes I don't have ready for Brian yet because he's using it live. So we come in with employee number. Now, with the employees, what we do is you have a 2 or 3 letter prefix that goes in front of their employee number. So it's like, for this is cogitate, COG, and then a space and a 1. And this is new. We now have passwords instead of pins. We still have pins for certain parts, and we'll cover that in a minute. So let me sign in with kind of show that. So if they're used to the old system, they're just coming in, cog3 needs to put in their PIN to sign in. And then the first time they sign in, it's going to say you need to set your password. So I'm going to go ahead and set a password. Our current rules are it needs to be between 6 and 35 characters. Now, not likely somebody's going to have 35 characters, but we needed to provide that. It must contain at least 1 uppercase letter and must contain at least 1 number. So I'm going to put in my favorite. And then we'll go ahead and set it. So we'll go back to cog3. And you can log in. Oh, if I go back to if I go sign out, we have the video link here to go to the page. And these are the 3 videos I was talking about that we have done for how to run PFA Works time card. And you can get to them through here. You can get to them through our channel, and so you have a place to be able to get those videos. Plus, there'll be a few more added over the course of the next couple of weeks. All right, so cog3 is who we had. We log in. All right, so first thing that John sees is this is what we call his dashboard. So as we've talked about some of the things we want to add, he would see another little block of information. One would have messages, one would have events, one would have, I can't remember the other ones right now off the top of my head. But basically, you get the idea. This is a screen he would come to and he would see these things. These are those time cards that he currently has in the system that are just sitting out there that it's showing that, he's got 9 hours approved. So these are the approved, but there's still 1. Yeah. So it's still showing all of the, information that he has on these time cards. Because they've been approved, but they haven't been imported. Once they've been imported, he won't see the employee, the time card. We have a button at the top, this little button that takes you to the home page. No matter where you are, you click it, it'll take you back to the home page. So he can pick any one of these days, or he can simply go in and say, I want to put in a new time card. So you pick the date you want to put in, and then you click the plus. Then time cards are added by, here's the types of time cards that we can do. Normally, most things are account. And because the default pay type in the system is set to regular time shows up. He's going to have 3 hours. This is going to be a prairie road. Crossing and shaping. And then if he has equipment that he's using, he comes into attachments. If it's a group, he can pick it from the group list or type in the group name. If he just has 1 or 2 pieces of inventory of equipment, he can show the inventory, the equipment that he's using. In this case, we're going to use the loader tracker. Why not? And then he can put in the number of hours. Now, he doesn't have to say 3. He can, but he doesn't have to. So we're going to say 2 hours, apply it. And now it shows equipment, the code, the number of hours, the units, and the description. Now let's say he has some inventory that goes with that. So you come into inventory. Now he can pick the inventory from a great big huge drop down. He can key in an inventory code. So if I type in like .13, I'll just see the 13s. The list here will, as he types, will shrink down. Or he can hit the Finder button, which brings up a bigger way to see all the inventory. And you can say, I'm going to do a nice sand, and I'm going to use the Nebish. Why not? And then you apply that. And so now we have that category, that one. The quantity he's going to add for that is 45 yards. So he applies it, and I have 45 yards units of Nebish ice, whatever it is. Not that this makes any sense to anybody. I'm just kind of showing, the different things. He can enter a note to for the time card if he needs to. And then when he's done, he can click save. So that takes care of the one time card on 9/27. We're going to sign in as a different employee. So we're going to go ahead and sign out here. We're going to sign in as COG1. And so this is Henry Riley signing in. Now Henry is showing that he has 5 time cards that are fully approved. So if you notice the number of hours is 8 hours on these time cards, it's fully approved. He has 1 time card with 13 hours that is still pending, which means, it hasn't been rejected. He's got 1 time card here that looks like he's got 0 hours for some reason. I'm not sure. This is probably something from a conversion issue that we were dealing with. So again, odd data, but it's still here and it still works. So if I go back to my dashboard, but if you notice, we don't show any time cards that have been imported. Once it's been imported, Henry really shouldn't, have to see that time card. In what we're trying to make is a way for Henry to just quickly get through his day of what he has to do. So, Henry is looking at a variety of things. And so one of the things I wanted to show was comp time. So if I go into my current banks, I have 0 hour of comp time, but hang on, let me go into employee maintenance and bring up Henry. And if I go over to his banks, his comp time banks, we gave him a max amount of 10 hours. So if we go back to the view payroll banks for him, so he's got 10 hours of max, he's got nothing in. So let's go back to his main screen. We're going to go to this 13 hours because it looks like he has some overtime here. And sick time, regular time. So this 5 hours, we're going to edit it. We're going to turn that into overtime. Now, if you noticed, when it's just regular time, we don't show comp time. When it's overtime, we do. Now we control that aspect of this by going into Payroll Pay Types. And we have this can comp. So if I want to actually make regular time also compable, I can say, sure, I'm going to let him comp regular time. Why not? So I just made that save. So before we showed regular, we didn't show the field. So now if I go back to the time card and I do a refresh on it, comp time shows up with regular. So if I do back pay, I don't see comp time, but we can comp time overtime, and now we can comp time regular time because the flag is checked. We didn't have to download, we didn't have to refresh anything. All we had to do was do the F5 refresh on the website page, and it picked up the change that was made in ProFund. So we're going to comp this 5 hours of regular time, and then we're going to save it. So you notice it has a little comp time, flag that says this 5 hours was comped. And if he goes to his view payroll banks, he sees that indeed I have 5 hours of negative pending, which means he added 5 hours of comp time. So he has a total over on this side of 5 hours of comp time. So, he has 5 hours, but remember we said he can only have 10 hours total. So let's go in for him and enter a new time card. Let's try adding a type before I save it. So we're going to do a direct equipment. We'll do regular time. We're going to comp it. Now, he has 5 hours. So if I say 3 hours or 3.5 hours, that will mean that he has the piece of equipment that we're working on is I like SnowGo, why not? And if I try to save it, and then I show 3.5 hours of comp time, but this was at regular. So this is where we get into a little bit of a tricky thing with the employees. If you're comping a pay type that is of only 1 times the amount of hours. So if we go back to payroll types, regular is a payroll factor of a 1. So that means if you're comping those hours, it's a 1-to-1, not a 1.5-to-1. But if you're comping overtime, let me get this. If you're comping overtime, it's comped at 1.5-hour payroll factor. So if I change this, so I go in and edit it, and I change him from regular time to overtime, and I try to save it, it says that I currently have 5 comp hours and I'm requesting 5.25 because 3.5 times 1.5 is 5.25. So it gives them the proper number of hours based on it correctly. This is new. This was incredibly difficult to get right because we allow you to comp anything you really want to comp. So if it's regular, it's comped at 1 because that's what your pay code says. Payroll factor is 1. If it's overtime, it's 1.5. So we comp 1.5 hours. If you didn't get all that, that's okay. I just kind of wanted to show that we have the ability to do more sophisticated comp time, and we do enforce that he doesn't go over. So if he had to, drop his back to 2.5 hours that he wanted to comp, he can certainly do that. And now if we go to his payroll banks, we will see that he has 8.75 hours now. So that's the comp time.
Can we also get a time card that has amount instead of hours?
Sure. So for an amount, we'll just go back to his desktop. We'll go to a new day. What the heck? Time card. We'll enter a time card for today. Let's make it a personal time card, personal type. I believe I don't think any of those have it, so we'll change it to an account. Reimbursement. So we have a reimbursement. Now it's asking for a flat dollar amount. So we have $12.84 because I needed some gas, and that's going to get charged to the Taqua Trail because I love Taqua. And we're going to call it to mobilization because I had to mobilize. And we can just put in fill gas or whatever you want to do, save it. And now we've got $12.84 of type with reimbursement and the notes of filled gas. The other piece that I wanted to show would be we have the clock in, clock out. Again, last time he clocked out was 9:14, so we will punch him out. So when it's black, it's clocked out. When it's green, he's punched in. So we keep track of the punch time, the in and out. All this works very nicely on a cell phone. I'm just showing it on my big screen just so you can see all the pieces. But as far as the screens and the looks and the feel, they all work just fine on a cell phone as well. It just works, like everything, it's a little bit different when it's on the cell phone, just because that's how the cell phones show things. So eventually under employee, you're going to have, view pay stubs, view W-2s. We'll be adding shortly reset password, a variety of other items that we talked about in the things we want to enhance. So we have these time cards entered. So let's go in and look at what it would look like for a supervisor. So he's keyed in some things for 927, some hours, a dollar amount. So let's take a look at when his supervisor signs in. So Jack is the supervisor. So this is Jack's personal time cards that he's put in over on this side. This is his supervisor screen. Now there's another screen he can go to that I can show. But right now, if he goes to his time card, he'll see approved time card. So he can go there, and we have a new box at the top to show secondary, but he doesn't have any employees that he's secondary for. So we'll just go back to his home screen to make it easier to talk through. So what we show for supervisor, we show how many people that have an approved time card, not the hours, just how many of the employees that he has that has approved time cards. The pending time cards is how many time cards does he have or how many employees have a time card he needs to deal with. So let's go to 4-5. Now on this date, he's showing, okay, I have my a list of employees, and now these employees I've already, he's already gone ahead and approved them, so they're showing in this color at the bottom. So he never really has to look down here because these are the ones he's already approved. So if I go to Henry, I can, approve Henry, and there I approved it. Now Henry moved down here so that I can just keep going through and approving time card after time card after time card, without having to click on them to drop it down. It automatically brings the next person up to approve. So I'm looking at Michael, and he's got this piece here in Otis, and I can just as I look through there, yep, it's all good. Approve, yep, approve. You can kind of see how easy it is. It's not that difficult to go through a whole day's worth for your supervisor to be able to view the entries and make an informed decision about whether they're accurate or not. So when he's finally all done, he's got everybody in the list is all green and approved. He would then save all of that and it would go. But in this case, to show I'm not going to save it, I'm just going to go back to the same day. I didn't save it, so it's just the way it was before I did it. I just want to show what happens if I deny Henry, and we're going to say and we have a little spelling check, so it's BECAU. Type today. There. So whenever an administrator denies a time card, he has to put a reason in. So Henry went to the bottom of the active list in red to kind of show that I'm rejecting it. And we have the note because you made a joke about my wife, so I'm not going to give you your 8 hours of salary. Now, yeah, well, that's funny and everything. We'll go ahead and save that. So now if he comes back on 4-5, he'll see that Henry's at the bottom because I've already rejected something for Henry. So I don't need to look again until Henry has made his adjustment or apologize for making the bad crack about his wife. And indeed, we show that we have, 8 that have been approved, 8 people have been approved, 8 people are pending. Now, the missing count we're working on is kind of a little non-correct way it does it. But for now, we'll work on getting this missing count to be a little bit more accurate with things. So the employee then signs, so we're going to sign out as a supervisor. And we'll sign back in as Henry to see his time card, what it looks like after a supervisor has rejected a time card from them. So he sees it right at the top of his list, the rejected time card. I have 8 hours that were rejected right at the top. So, I've got these other time cards that have pending information. So right at the tippy top, I see this. And indeed, I got in there because, I made a joke about his wife, so he's mad at me. Fine, I'm sorry. I will edit the time card. I will save the time card. And you notice it goes away because he had edited and saved it. We remove the rejected. So now it's back to, that's all Henry had to do to get it back for his supervisor to approve it. Because he just had to go in and make a change. So now, we'll once again sign out. We'll sign back in as a supervisor. We'll go to 4 or 5, and indeed Henry shows up at the top again with the same 8 hours. So now he can approve it. And as long as things haven't been, there is a clear button as well, as you see, in case a supervisor needs to, oops, I shouldn't have approved it. In our old system, once you clicked approve, there was no unapproving. So we made a clear button to allow him to clear that or to clear the deny. So I'm just going to go ahead real quickly and run through and approve. All right, so we left 2 people with some unapproved time. So we'll approve those. And then I have Denise, where I missed one at the bottom. All right, so if I look at my list, all my people are in green. I will save the day. And I've approved everything on 4-5 that I know about. So let's now go and look at what happens for importing. The import screen has changed a little bit. One of the things we did on the import screen is when you pick the date, it's just from a list, and we're showing the number of employees that have a time card that has been approved but not imported yet. So if we go to the 4-5 date, I have the 16. I can load the time cards. We show all the people that we have on that day. And if they did put a dollar amount, we would show the dollar amount here. So we can just go ahead and click all the employees. We can say import. Just create a new journal for now. So now all the employees on 4-5 are just imported into the system. So let's see how that looks now when we go back to time cards. So again, we just imported. So we saw a 4-5 here. If I just refresh, active shows the 4-5 goes away. Because there's no time cards that are pending, that are pending or rejected that the supervisor needs to know about, so they don't need to know about that day. There's nothing more that this supervisor can do on that day because the time cards have been imported. So you can see we have some older dates in here. I did that because I wanted to show a couple of interesting things about approval, which was the 4-5 day. We also have this 4-6 day, which everybody has. So again, we come through here, we have, so in my pay period, I wanted to show one other thing that we did. So in the pay period, if I go to say, oh yes, now it's time to calculate my payroll. Click it because it went behind. So it's time to, calculate my payroll. So I have this great big huge payroll date with earning dates from 9/7/2021 to 9/7/2022. So a whole year's worth, but you'll get the idea. So if I do a load, as soon as I click load, it checks to see if there's time cards that are dated. Now these time cards it's checking are only the new MyWork time cards. So if you don't have any, obviously this message will never come up, but it's saying that there's time cards dated that haven't been imported. So it's just a check to say, oh, wait, there's a time card out there that may just be entered and never been approved that really should have been, caught in here. And so when I try to do a calculate, it's the last, chance we have of, checking it. Now, of course, if you click it, you can still say yes. But we don't recommend it. We recommend going back and look, but you can still say yes and go through your calculation, because sometimes there's reasons and circumstances where that message will come up that you do need to still calculate. So we didn't want to stop it, but we did want to put it in there so that you could see, oops, there's still something out there that is either pending, has been entered and hasn't been approved, and the cycle hasn't happened for that time card that an employee has put in. All right, so we made a tool out here that you have it now, Brian, called Convert Time Cards. And what this does is it will take all your existing imported time cards from the old time card system and make an identical time card in the MyWork time card system, so your employees can look backwards in time and see, what their time cards look like using just MyWork. So you don't have to keep the PFA Works time card system running for them to see an old time card. It is incredibly interesting because of all the magic that Paul and I spent three and a half days going over. So, and these numbers are true, I just did. You'll see that I just converted, 118,000 time cards with 274,000 equipment records and 1,069 inventory records. Just like that. Now I have time cards out there. If I go back and look at Riley, I will be able to go backwards in time and see old imported time cards if I wish to. So in order to do that, I think I'm on supervisor, so I'm on 100. Well, I suppose I can just stay on 100. So if I go and enter time cards and I pick a date, let's go backwards in time. October 6th. Here's my 2 imported time cards for October 6th. I had 4 hours of sick time, because it was after the holidays in October. I thought it was, and because I did this tire cleanup, I smelled all the bad stuff, so I went home sick. 6 hours of, smelling bad tire goo, regular time, sick, came in. So you get the idea here that, you can still go backwards in time, and these are now only available because I just ran the thing. I can go to the 19th. This guy was sick a lot. I can go to the 22nd. You didn't have anything for the 22nd. I can go to the 23rd. Nope. That being the more sick time. Boy, this guy was sick a lot. There we go. So primary road maintenance, 4 hours with equipment. So you can see it's kind of interesting, all the things that we did for that to be that quick for 100,000 records. I wish everything could go that fast, but not always. So that was the convert. Pretty straightforward to run. You would want to run that, when you have, let's say, at least, if you only have like 5 people left on the old time card for whatever reason, when everybody else has been converted over, you'd want to run that. Like I said, and you can run it over and over again. It won't convert a time card a second time, but it will find any time cards that haven't been imported already and, add those time cards into your system, into the MyWork system from the PFA time cards. So, you don't have to wait until everybody's done to run it. In other words, you can run it at, anytime you want. Even though they may still be making, entries in the old system, you can run it again and it will pick up anything that's been imported off the old again. So we're going to look at Riley here, and we have this little thing called user status. Maybe not a great name, but he's active, which is different than, I know, and just we got these things over. So it's active. So the one piece to make it inactive isn't here. And what that is if he tries 6 times in a row to put a password in and fail, it will lock the account. This is to provide a way so that on the web, if somebody has an automated device that tries to access an account, and just keep spamming password after password after password until it finally gets it, obviously we need to thwart that. So let's just say, for instance, hang on, I got to say edit. Let's just, for instance, we've got to lock his account. So this would happen if Riley was trying to key over and over and over and over again his password and just couldn't get it. He couldn't get logged in. So when that happens, the account gets locked. And then when Riley tries to sign in, so Riley being COG1, even if he has a good password, it's going to say your account's been locked, contact your administrator to unlock your account. So your employees may get this, but this is a good indication that something kind of weird might have happened here. Either he completely forgot his password, which we can, set. Let's say, it was because Riley forgot his password. So you can once again go into employee maintenance, and we have 2 utilities here. So you don't have to keep clicking new and edit. You can just go up to the utilities. You can clear his user password, prompts you. Now his password has been cleared. He's going to have to enter a new one. And then you can unlock his status by just coming in here and say, clear the user status. And now it's back to active. So now when Riley tries to log in, we are here. So now I can try logging in with my password, but it's an invalid. So what he has to put in order to get past it is his old PIN. And then it will take him here. Because we didn't want to make it an automated, I forgot my password link and it would automatically do that. For the simple reason that this needs to be a more controlled environment. And we do have a person who's, sitting at the employee desk that can, clear it and reset these things for, for the employees to, be able to manage it. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my new password again. Okay, so now I should be able to log in with, that didn't work out so well. And I'm back in business. All right, so that was those 2. And then templates. The templates carry over to the new one, yes, but if you want to get rid of them, you can make the templates inactive, and then the new system won't ever see that. So let me go ahead and do that for a minute. So let's begin by first going into 927. I have this Toccoa Trail template that we have that I have turned on. So let's say we want to, make that inactive. So here's what it will look like. He has an account. It hasn't been approved. It hasn't been imported, but he's got this time card sitting out there. But you decide on a specific day, like today, you want to go into the time card templates. And you want to come down here and find Mr. Tacoma. Where are you, Mr. Tacoma? Here's Tacoma. And I think I did, what was it? Engineering did I do, Paul? Brain can't work. No, mobilization, I think.
Yeah.
So you can take mobilization and we can just make that inactive. We commit the changes. So I still have Tacoma Trail, but now mobilization really isn't part of it. And if I come back to here and I refresh the screen, it goes away because now, hey, Tacoma Trail isn't here anymore. You're scored. Tacoma Trail mobilization doesn't show up anymore. Even though I have access to everything, it's just not there. So it goes away while it's an active time card. If the time card was already imported, it would, the value would stay, but it would show as removed. There's a spot here that shows it as removed, and I can get in one of those. So if we go backwards in time to something on a day that has a time card that's already been imported, like 4/5, it's probably easy to type it. Okay, fine today. Okay, so we have administration office salaries. So we leave 4/5 up on the screen and I do the same dance. Come into here and we say office salaries, administration office salaries. And we take this guy inactive. We commit. I come back to here and I press the refresh. I get a not active. Sorry, my bad. I get gotta go back to 4/5. Not active. So the type here wasn't, it's a non-active value. So I can't really do anything with it, but he can't, modify, change, or edit it. Whereas before on the other one that we had today's date, back up a minute. The other one where I had today's date. This one, if I try to edit it, it forces me to put a new one in because I can't save this one. So I got to either change the template it's on because we made that one inactive, or again, we can live with the way it's set, but it's going to be tricky to get through the thing at that point. So we did our best to make sure that things weren't invalid. For the old system, all you have is permissions. So in the old one, you would just turn off permissions for everything at the top level. You don't have sub permissions, but yes, you can turn it off. For instance, like when you get into the new one with the other thing about templates that we just did with the MDOT is, of course, you had your old one, which we had in here, which is, where are you, you goofy old one? I believe it was called State Maintenance 517 was the old one. So you would come in here and you'd make sure, in here you still have it, but you'd want to, for what we have, you take the top level and make that inactive. Now, anybody on the new system won't be able to see that one. And the one we create is called M. Trunk line. Now you can rename it, of course. This is the one that has the newer, 4-digit codes in it. As you can see, the 4-digit code numbers. So that one has, the M. one that you've got. So now what you would do is also turn around in ProFund and go into permissions, the old time card permissions. And you would uncheck, make sure that he wasn't checked, but you would uncheck if you follow all that. That way you'd be turning off then everybody's access to that state trunk line, the old state trunk line, which would mean that nobody can unkey in a 4-character one by accident. Or sorry, a 3-character, maintenance code by accident.
You are now working smarter with ProFund Accounting. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.